Oh, hey, there we are. That was the greatest countdown of all time. Sorry to let you all down, but we figured, keep them wanting more, and maybe if we don't go on at all, you'll want us even more. But thank you,
1 minute late.
Yeah,
people at the network are going to be very stressed out.
We appreciate you spending the evening with us. As always, I'm joined here by my colleagues. First, directly to the left of me or right, depending on which way you're looking, is Gary Kubi, and our president. Gary, how are you this evening?
I am living the dream and introducing myself for the third time tonight, I think, Nick. But happy to be here. This is almost always the highlight of my week. It definitely is. This has been a comeback week after CES where we worked very hard, and I'm so happy to be with the SVS community.
Well, we've only done this about 50 times, so I got some excuse for not having it totally figured out. The countdown is what threw me there. But of course, we also have mainstay here, the Larry Magoo, our national training manager. Larry, how are you this evening?
I am great, sir. Feeling good after 7 days out west in Vegas, and ready to hang out with you guys tonight and everybody in the community and our guest. So I'm going to do some movie geekery tonight.
Oh, yeah. And of course, the wizard of home theater who has more knowledge than all of us combined, our director of technology, Ed Mullen.
I resent that remark. I'm going to dispute that.
Well, we could get into some debates, and we'll see who can go further down the technical rabbit hole if you'd like to do that. But Ed, how are you this evening?
Okay, no, that one I will lose.
Yeah, I'll back out of that one.
Nick, it's been a minute since I've been on the show. It feels like I've been living up in a tree for the last 3 months, so it's great to be back. And welcome everybody to our show.
Well, on some level, you have from what I heard, a freezer full of venison, so that living in a tree is not too far from the truth.
Yep, that's what I was alluding to. Had a good season.
Well, anyone who is here for the first time, the SVS Audiophile Happy Hour, we'll have a special guest coming on, which I'll talk about in a minute, but we'll also have 4 spectacular giveaways. We'll call out names live on the air. We have Vince, my colleague, working behind the scenes, who will get your shipping information. We'll get those out within the next couple of days, and actually met a couple of our winners at CES who are very grateful. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that down later in the show. But Larry, before we get into things, what are the giveaways for tonight? And again, 1 comment, that makes you eligible. More comments doesn't make you more eligible.
All right, Nick is back on his game. He remembered to say that.
Yes. Yeah, and we don't need anything about weird things that people can do for spam and stuff like that either. But we have got 4 phenomenal giveaways tonight. We're going to kick things off with an SB-1000 Pro Subwoofer, followed up by a pair of Prime bookshelf speakers, then a pair of Prime Wireless Pro powered bookshelf speakers, and then we're going to wrap up the night with an SB-2000 Pro Subwoofer, partnered up with a set of SoundPath Subwoofer Isolation System. So it's a pretty awesome giveaway all the way around. And
very nice.
One of each.
Exciting to give all that away. And of course, if you add questions into the comments, we'll be monitoring those. And towards the back 15 of the happy hour, we'll be doing what Gary has called our lightning round Q&A, where we'll be answering your questions live. So throw some questions up there, technical, they can be content related, whatever you like. We'll get to as many of them as we can, and maybe even save some for the next happy hour. But as is we also, quick teaser for the special guest, super excited. I've been trying to get Jason Gorber on here for a while. He is the editor-in-chief of thatshelf.com, as well as a prolific movie reviewer for a lot of different sites. So we'll get into it with him a little bit later here. But we got to stick with our normal cadence and talk about what we've been tuning into and listening to recently. And you know what, Ed, I think I'm going to start with you. I don't think we ever start with you. So give me some hot picks for things we should be watching and listening.
You know, Nick, wow, Jack Ryan, season 3. I was just blown away. The production values, the geopolitical is super relevant with the Ukraine-Russia conflict. It's 4K UHD, HDR, it's Atmos. The acting's amazing. It's the best season yet of what is an amazing series. So I highly, highly recommend that if you're into, spy thriller / action. Really good. We just binged season 3.
Very nice. That's still John Krasinski, right? He's still the main character?
Yep.
All right. Well, that's a nice hot pick there. Larry, what do you got?
Well, I was traveling too, so got a chance to watch just a little bit and finally got caught up on Glass Onion. Enjoyed that quite a bit. I do like most of the stuff Ryan Johnson does. Jack Ryan, I just started the third season, got into the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I've been going back and revisiting the Walking Dead because I have not watched the final season yet. So that just hit Netflix. Even though it's sitting on my DVR, the convenience of having it running while I'm working is pretty nice too. So that's what I've been doing, and then just listening to random tunes. So,
and I know you're excited for a certain weekend of sporting this coming weekend.
Yes, we've got NFL playoffs round 1, so I'm going to be plopped down in front of a TV Saturday at 3:00 Central Time to watch the Niners and Seahawks and see if Brock Purdy can continue this 10-game win streak.
It's quite a streak. We'll see. And Gary, I mean, I want to cue it up for you. I know there was a passing in the last 24, 48 hours of just an absolute legend in the world of music. So maybe talk a little bit about that, and then any recommendations you have as well.
Oh yeah, that we lost Jeff Beck, amazing guitar player, and I was framing it up for the team, so you guys have to listen to it twice, I guess. There were 3 sort of guitar quote guitar gods in the 60s from England. It was Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, who later went on to Led Zeppelin. They all started in the Yardbirds, by the way. This kind of blues rock group, early blues rock group. Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page went to Led Zeppelin, and Eric Clapton. We all know about his career. And I always found Jeff Beck. I never completely connected with his music, as I was saying to the team. But what I really loved about Jeff Beck was, unlike the other quote unquote guitar gods through history, he was not about showing off, not about playing guitar in this sort of showmanship way. Instead, he really wanted to create amazing music. And so he was constantly going off in different directions. Anyone who wants to understand what made him great, there's an album called Blow by Blow, which was one of the very first jazz rock, quote unquote, jazz rock fusion albums. But instead of coming from a jazz place like the Miles Davis stuff did, it comes from a rock place, and it's very, very good. So that's one to listen to. And you can see that he decided he wasn't going to be a guitar god. He wasn't going to play show-off stuff, and instead just try to create amazing music. The other thing that I would point you to, if you want to see what kind of quote badasses these guys were, is there's a movie from the 60s called Blow Up. It's a very weird movie, but I did note, I sent it to the team. Did anybody watch the link I sent? There's a YouTube of the Yardbirds' little scene in Blow Up. It's like 3 minutes long or 4 minutes long. Blow Up is a cool movie, very influential movie, but you can kind of see what badasses these guys were. This was all the way back to 1966, and it's Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page in the same early blues rock band playing in this movie, and you can catch it on YouTube. It's like 3 minutes long. You'll get what I mean. So R.I.P. Jeff Beck. He was one of a kind. As far as what I'm watching and listening to, listen, I don't know how you guys can talk about this. Larry, Nick, and I were deep in CES, and I really haven't had any time to experience anything new. But I can tell you what I'm not watching. I'm not watching anything to do. Sorry if there's anyone from the UK listening. I'm not watching anything to do with Prince Harry because I truly don't care. I'm trying to get myself to care, but I don't. So that's my take.
A cold pick there. There you go. And I just want to clarify. I saw a lot of comments. I believe the name of the movie is Blow by Blow.
Nope.
I saw a lot of people mentioning.
No, Blow Up is the movie.
Blow Up. Okay.
Blow Up is the movie. Blow by Blow is the famous. The album that I really like.
I think there's a remake that's out right now that's of a similar premise that may have a similar name too.
It's been remade multiple times with different themes. Blow Up was about this photographer who took pictures and then he blew up the pictures to solve a crime kind of thing. And then there was another one called The Conversation, and instead of a photographer, that was made by Coppola, the guy who made The Godfather. It's about a guy who's a recording engineer, and he's doing it with recording. So there you go. It was influential.
All right. Well, you've taken the crown from me as smartest.
Now I've gone
music
too
person.
granular, but you know what? Jason's going to know about these two movies very well, so he could talk about
I
it.
bet. Well, my quick picks. I also watched Knives Out. I was hoping for better audio, better surround score with the Knives Out Glass Onion. I thought it was fine. It was a pretty good story. You know, I gauge a lot of them by whether my wife falls asleep or not. She did not, so that was a good one. And then Kaleidoscope. I saw a couple people recommending that. It's kind of a cool take on a series because you can watch it in any order that you want. And it sort of is just juxtaposed in a way where it makes sense no matter what, because it just brings you into different parts of the story. It's like a heist show about a bank robbery or somewhere along those lines. So I love the concept. I haven't got all the way through it yet, so I can't say whether it wraps it up in a nice bow, but I had fun with that. And then I know we're going to talk about CES here in a minute, but I had the opportunity to meet the legendary rapper Young Gravy. Not legendary, but he was at a club, and I have not really listened to much of his music, but there you go. If you're a Young Gravy fan, let us know in the comments. He's an interesting character and certainly added some liveliness to the club I was at.
Yeah, well, he rickrolls you in a hit song right now, so it's kind of awesome.
Well, it was it was an interesting, again, his entourage was quite large, and just to see that sort of spectacle was fun. But that's actually a nice transition because we were at CES, and it was a big show for us, being on the main floor right next to both TCL and Samsung. And Gary, I don't know, maybe give us a little frame up of what you took away from the show, and then if you're cool with it, I'm going to do a rapid fire shout out thank you to some of the folks that I got to hang out with who made the show just that much more fun. And I promise not to belabor it, but I wanted you to just give a general frame up of some of your thoughts.
I think you should, Nick. And I am going to say, I think Nick and Larry were on fire at SVS. Let me first frame it up. SVS has been doing, we've been exhibiting at CES for years now. I don't even know, is it 10 years? It's been a while. We've done it, or maybe it's like 8 years. But we were always exhibiting in the Venetian. We had 3 suites. The Venetian is a massive hotel. It's official CES exhibit site, but you're not in some giant show floor. Instead, you have suites, and we would always have 3 suites in the Venetian. We would do 1 home theater demo, really cool home theater demo, and then 1 demo of 2-channel in the other suite, and then the 3rd suite. Usually, I was locked in doing meetings, and we made the decision as a team to take the plunge and go out into the Las Vegas Convention Center, which is something like 2 million square foot facility. We were in Central Hall. We were right next to Samsung, so prime real estate. It was very exciting. It did make me feel like this upstart brand that we've built has really arrived. We got visits from all kinds of very high level people, including some celebrities. We got the Grammy Award winning producers, the Avila brothers, and some others. It was just really, really cool. But I do want to shout out 2 people on this happy hour. I want to shout out Larry, who had to take products that are designed for someone's living room and fill a 2 million square foot facility with an immersive home theater demo. And damned if, I got to even use the D word, damned if Larry didn't do it. And he was really kicking rear end in those demos. People were coming from literally hundreds of feet away to find where all this noise was coming from. We also were demoing Prime Wireless Pro. We demoed our all-new 3000 in-wall subwoofer. The Prime Wireless Pro powered speaker pair and Soundbase were both on display and demoing live. But I really want to shout out to Larry. And then Nick was in those first 2 days especially, Nick was in one press video after another. It was super impressive. I know it was exciting for Nick, and it was exciting for me watching our brand come front and center. I've been in this industry a long time. That was but we didn't figure it out, but I think it's more than my 30th CES that I've gone to. And they're telling me to stop talking and get to the giveaway. We're almost there at 6:15. We're not behind schedule. Whoever wrote that. I really felt very, very proud at the level of exposure that our brand has. Come on, guys. not just the SVS people that work here brand, it's all of your brand that's on this happy hour. So hopefully you're as excited about it as we were. But now I'll quiet down since everybody wants their giveaway.
All right, we'll do the giveaway, and then I want to give some shout outs, and Larry, I'll let you offer a hot take as well. But the first giveaway of the evening is one of our award-winning SB-1000 Pro Sealed Cabinet Subwoofers, and the winner of
I don't want the guy who made that negative comment to win. I'm totally kidding. It's random.
Sorry, I missed it.
It's totally random.
Hopefully David Aaron is not throwing shade right now. David Aaron.
It's him. David, he's the one who was saying it.
Was it really?
Because he said you were Nick the Stick. I love it.
Oh, well, we don't play favorites. We choose randomly, and if you win, you win. So I hope it breaks. No, I'm just kidding. Congratulations on getting a new SB-1000.
Our stuff doesn't break. Our stuff is bulletproof.
I know. Larry, what's your hot take on CES?
It was a blast. This is my. I have no idea. I mean, 13 or 14. I don't know CES, but it's the first one with SVS on the big showroom floor, as Gary said, and it was awesome. We were playing like 95 to 102 dB all day. My lips are still chapped from the dry air in Vegas, and we just
from the subwoofers pounding you in the face.
Oh, you know what? I found
it was cold there in Central Hall. We were like it must be in the 40s in that place.
We had somebody next to us running massive air conditioning and circulation fans for these servers they were doing, and I didn't find it until the very last day when we're all packing down, but everybody was cold and wearing jackets, and I was just loving the cool air. But it was a blast. I know I got to meet some of you that are here on the broadcast, and we did some really stupid demos, threw out some Rammstein and the Metallica and some of the Mission Impossible and Ninja Turtles demos and stuff, and it was just a whole lot of fun and very much looking forward to.
A lot of Ninja Turtles. Nick and I are estimating Ninja Turtles were demoed more than 30 times.
No, I didn't do that many times.
Drew a crowd every time.
Even more than that.
What Gary's not saying is he's been saying in our team meeting today and at CES last week that was the best demo at the show.
No, I didn't say. I said it definitely validated itself in that massive space because it was shooting out bass waves. I think we were right next to a place doing massage chairs, and I think the bass from our booth broke a couple of the massage chairs. So I think, Larry, you did a good job. I did want to say can I say one more thing about CES, Nick?
Please do.
I found it really interesting. We had we had the press, we had a lot of business meetings. As Ken and I generally do those. You guys know Ken from the live in person happy hours. But what was fun, and everybody who was at CES for SVS noticed this, we were the place you went if you could get a break. If you were in health tech or drones or wearables or computers or in-vehicle technology or all these other things that are at CES, they would find us. They would make their way, and they'd be like, I'm on a break. My boss let me come to your booth to get an SVS demo. How many times did that happen, Larry and Nick?
I mean, towards the back end of the show, when things started to slow down around the whole hall, that's when people were like, I have a little time to get away. Like, I'm making a beeline. And at least, a couple dozen people.
Yeah. And we finally got to meet, you've met him. I finally got to meet Rowie in person, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. One of our past happy hour guests, Rowie Hershkovitz.
I wore Rowie's leather jacket. He was
Rowie's
cool.
Rowie's a good dude.
Yeah, we had a picture of Gary wearing his happening leather jacket. It was he looked like a.
I tried to be cool, but it didn't work. The jacket did not make it happen. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to bring our guest out, but I wanted to give my my quick take on it. One, I thought, you mentioned some of the music demos we were playing. There was a point where there was a couple of people who walked up, they heard Metallica, and they legit thought we had a live band in our demo room because it was an enclosed space. So they're like looking in there, it's like, where's the guitarist? Where's the drum set? I'm like, oh, that's just our speakers. And they're like, their jaw sort of dropped at that point. So that was kind of funny. I see a lot of people asking about cool stuff we saw. We were so busy, we didn't really get to venture that far. But I did see that Bugatti, the high-end car manufacturer, has a new scooter. So you want to drop $40,000 on an electric scooter? Bugatti's got one. And then there's just these swaths of VR demo areas where like there was just, 10,000 square feet of people just sitting on a bench sort of, weirding out with this joint metaverse sort of experience. So it was a little surreal to see just all these people in the metaverse interacting with these VR headsets. But that was a big takeaway from the show was all the VR stuff. Now, if you'll humor me, I'm going to go rapid fire here because we had a lot of press, but I wanted to give some thanks specifically to folks who came by and I'll just run right through these. First, Techno Dad from YouTube. He showed us this really cool spatial audio demo that he's got going on. It's spatialcd.com if you want to check it out. He was awesome, did a video if you want to check out his channel of a tour of our booth. Elon Osborne as well, also a YouTuber. Giles from Home Theater Fanatic stopped by. Our partners in North Carolina, Audio Advice, came by and did some video. Todd from AV Nirvana. The POC Network, I forget your name, sorry dude, but you did a phenomenal job with your video. Robert Silva from Acoustics, John Shiaka from Residential Systems, Kyle from Mars Marketing, who gave me my sweet gray hat that everyone keeps asking about, and maybe we'll have some of those available down the line. Emiko, That Hi-Fi Girl, Al Griffin from Tech Radar, Jake Tivy from Linus Tech Tips was there, AJ Wikes from The Sound Guys, and Jordan from Haterade Cowboy, also on YouTube. Thank you for coming by the booth, spending some time with us. You guys all brought the energy, made it a lot more fun for us to be able to demo and just do our thing at CES 2023. So we'll definitely be back. And our next event, just so I can throw a little teaser out there, we'll be in Florida for the first time doing a live event at the Florida Audio Expo in the Tampa area. That's President's Day weekend, February 16th through the 19th. So if you're in the area or you just want to go to Florida in February, come to the Florida Audio Expo. You just Google it. You'll find out exactly the location, but it's in the Tampa area on February 16th through the 18th. So we'll be there. Not ready for a giveaway yet. So I think it's time to bring in our special guest, who I'm super excited because I've been trying to get Jason on here. He's just a wealth of knowledge in the world of movies and home cinema. He's the editor-in-chief of thatshelf.com. He's been a movie critic for CBC's Radio, Metro Morning. His work has appeared in POV Magazine, RogerEbert.com. He's also a member of the Toronto Film Critics, and he's been to pretty much every major movie event and festival that there is out there, including Sundance, Cannes, TIFF, Berlin. I'm sure I'm missing some. He's going to Norway in a couple of weeks. So, Jason, how are you?
I'm good. It's exhausting when you put it all that way, but it's all great. Thank you guys so much for being here. Now, how pedantic can we be about Gary? Because I want to talk about Jeff Beck, and I want to talk about, so Blow Up is the film that we're talking about. So Michelangelo Antonioni is Blow Up. So
I knew you'd know about Blow Up.
And more importantly, the conversation, while it's about audio, wasn't actually the remake. The remake was Blow Out, which was done by De Palma. Oh, so this is about a sound guy, and this is about a photographer. So this has different music than this. But absolutely, the Yardbirds, Jeff Beck, an incredible guitarist, and of the guitar gods, the one that was never in a band that had a hit that everybody knew. So the reason everybody knows Jimmy Page is because of Stairway to Heaven. The reason everybody knows Clapton is because of Layla. But Jeff Beck was just a guitar god that just played guitar. He had incredible hits for guitarists and people like instrumental stuff. But absolute shout out for those that are digging up his first record, Truth, of the Jeff Beck Band, available on Mo-Fi vinyl if you want to get crazy, is absolutely worth listening. So I wanted to actually join in on Gary's celebration of an absolute iconic talent who died far too young. He was incredibly healthy and just got meningitis and passed away.
Yeah, he didn't die of old age. It's sad. He was touring just a few months ago, and I love how you had Blow Up right there in a box set. I love that. But that's a really influential movie, right?
Yeah.
We should have brought some deep trivia for you, Jason, because I feel like we could really put you to the test. But I want to keep it somewhat high level. And first, you could probably spend the next hour recommending different things, but maybe your top 2 recent movies that you've watched that you would highly recommend to the community. And then it looks like you have, is that a glass bottle Coke?
Is that the Mexican Coke?
Mexican Coke. Everybody asks. I was told to bring a drink, and everybody knows about the stuff that I get. It's always Mexican Coke. I don't drink much, but this is my imported from 2 countries south of me. So cheers, guys. Thanks so much for having me. You guys talked about Knives Out. I think Glass Onion is absolutely extraordinary. I love that movie, probably a little bit more than you guys. The Fabelmans, the film that just won the Golden Globe by Steven Spielberg, looks like it's only going to be okay, but it is amazing. He's done such an extraordinary job of celebrating his love of cinema and showing the complexities of growing up as a Jew in the South. and as a Jew who grew up in the suburbs, I absolutely, the film spoke to me. But generally, as crazy as it is with Steven Spielberg, we underappreciate him. He's made some of the greatest films of all time.
Yeah,
he's thought so often as this sort of populist guy that doesn't really do much. extraordinary film. But yeah, there's the big one that I would love everybody to go out and see. And again, Glass Onion. I'm you guys, I know we're sort of hit and miss on it, but I think that Rian Johnson's latest film is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
I adored it, and I'm so happy to see how it's been doing.
So that brings me to I think an important question. I'm really interested to hear your answer on this. And, having to critically assess movies, I'm assuming you have your own set of criteria, but specifically with the sound, what sort of things are you listening for when actually making a call on whether, a movie has a great cinematic soundtrack and just overall score?
It's fun. I mean, it's a really excellent question. I'm sort of one of those weird film critics that also is obsessed with this stuff. So I'm somebody that very much cares about theatrical presentation. Wrote an article for the Toronto Star about where to sit in a movie theater, like what specific seats in Toronto to sit in to actually determine where you're sitting, and also for the best sound. Picture was always important to me, but I grew up obsessed with the work of Ben Burtt in Star Wars. So the way that I realized that even on the smallest television set that I could immerse myself in big sound, my sound setup developed way before any of my high definition stuff. So what do I look for with really good sound? Believe it or not, it's not the most obnoxious. It's not the thing that this is showing off my Atmos system or this is the most bass. It's when it truly becomes musical. And I don't mean just in terms of the composition of music. It means in the sense that there's a balance, that there's a sophistication of take. Sometimes the most subtle soundtracks are the most engaging. Sometimes it's going to be Top Gun, but sometimes or Blade Runner or ilk like that. But I adore when sound mixers and sound designers find a way of actually completely integrating the world of sound with the world of a picture. And I'll give you a really good example of what I think is one of the best Atmos mixes ever, which is Roma. It's an art film, but it was done by the sound guys that did Gravity. It is an incredibly beautiful film, a little austere, black and white, not your normal thing that you think of that you would look for what the soundscape is like. But the way that they used Atmos within a sort of, a general situation of just a bunch of people in a room and truly made it atmospheric, I think that's one of the best sound mixes in the history of cinema.
Wow, that is
Roma too. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I love that. That's a great pick. And I remember being surprised because it was black and white, but watching it in my theater that it was in Atmos, and then I understood why.
So that,
yeah, I mean, what a beautiful way that we don't have to use Atmos in order to have the Marvel movies sort of come at us from every direction. That you truly can make something that's using this type of object-based audio in creative ways, but also truly atmospheric ways. I mean, I remember when I was in, a kid and setting up surround sound, you're cranking your surrounds. So you're like, I paid for these speakers. I'm going to get more stuff out of them. That's what we got to do. As if we are overcoming what the actual sound mixers do. I'm as much of a movie guy, I'm an audio guy. I have a ton of quadraphonic mixes. I actually have a custom XLR switcher so that when I listen to 4-channel stuff, my rear speakers become part of my 5.1 setup rather than my side speakers so that I can get a true quad setup. And to hear the difference of mixes take the Alan Parsons Dark Side of the Moon mix, the 4-channel mix versus the 5.1 mix they did for the SACD in 2003, I guess it was. Completely radically different mixes. And the same thing with me with movies. Jaws 5.1 mix is extraordinary because what they did is they kept it almost entirely mono except for the score. So it's John Williams's music that envelops you with a little bit of effects, but the dialogue stays locked. So it's as the shark comes towards you, the music comes towards you. So it doesn't have to be this sort of completely obnoxious, you're in the room. I love those mixes sometimes, but sometimes the best sound mix is something like that is so integral to the storytelling that's what it's about. I understand we are demo disc type people putting on stuff just to show off a particular sound. I can't watch The Matrix anymore, the original Matrix, because how many times I went into the TV stores when I was like coveting my first HD TV and just seeing the same clips over and over again. A movie I put on when I want to hear something incredibly loud and obnoxious, I put on Drumline. I love the hell out of Drumline. So there are so many there's so many movies for me where it truly is the extraordinary mix, much more so the look at me, I have a really big subwoofer and this is me showing off.
Well, that's a great segue. I'm going to do a giveaway first, and then I'm going to ask the question, and then you can answer it after the giveaway. But I do want to know why bass is important to movies. And then also, you know, there's no secret. One of the reasons I love you is because you're a PV16 Ultra owner. So obviously you understand a little bit about bass. But yeah, why is bass important to movies? And what are some of your favorite movies for just getting that LFE track? And think about that while we do this giveaway of a pair of Prime bookshelf speakers for one Mr. Seth Fokakis. Congratulations, Seth Fokakis. You got a pair of Prime bookshelves coming your way. Congrats. So I want to give my colleagues a chance. Any thoughts on what Jason just riffed on here before we move on to the lows and bass in movies?
I got a kick out of his comment on The Matrix because for me, it's anything from the Eagles, Hell Freezes Over.
Oh my God.
When that came out on DVD, I was working at Best Buy and we had it on an end cap, like a Toshiba TV and Pioneer players. And I had a guy ask for it at CES, and I kind of jokingly said, I just don't play it, but it's because I specifically don't carry it with me. Just for that.
More shade than normal being thrown around on the happy hour tonight, but that's okay because as much as we like things, you're allowed not to like things too. So, but Jason, I
appreciated Prince Harry. I think I'm not the only one.
No, you definitely had some solidarity in the comments there. That's for sure.
Jason, what do you think of? I thought Hans Zimmer's score in Gladiator was amazing. It made the movie for me, and I think it is similar to your comments where we're watching the movie, we're immersed in the movie, but the score and the soundtrack in the background totally validated the scenes and what was happening on the screen.
Without being super negative, I despise Gladiator. I know you have a poster of it, I think, in behind you. I hate that movie. I totally hate that movie. But the score is fantastic. And Zimmer, it's early Zimmer. It's when Zimmer was just experimenting with all this stuff and creating this sort of Zimmerian method. I will sort of one-up you and give you Blade Runner 2049, which I've actually talked to Denis Villeneuve. I joked with him about playing on my SVS. I talked to the director of Blade Runner about that I could hear it better than he could probably hear it in some of his mixing studios because of the subwoofer I have. I believe they threw in a 6 hertz tone there just for giggles. They just because they wanted to when they were mastering the thing.
I've got 2049 right around the corner. It's on my queue to watch again.
2049 is extraordinary. The Dune soundtrack, again, when you talk about what he did for Gladiator, I think it's an incredibly strong point that he integrated. Basically, he finds a middle ground between doing sound design and score, and it's when his choice of instrumentation, his choice of composition, his choice of mixing means that you don't really know when it's a sound effect and when it's an instrument. And that's where it truly gets exciting when you have somebody like that that's so adventurous, that is using forms of synthesis, non-traditional orchestral instruments, and all of that stuff. And so if you get a mix at home, like Blade Runner or the Dune stuff's unbelievably great. Absolutely worth seeing. Or then you have something, I mean, we're talking about Glass Onion, the score that Nathan Johnson did for it. You have a guy who was that. He was very much a Hans Zimmer guy, a guitarist. If you listen to the score that he did in Looper, it's very much electronic-y, all over the place. And he's becoming more and more interested in the orchestral sound. There's some sweeping stuff, but him working with a string quartet like he did in the original Knives Out and a full 70-piece orchestra recorded at Abbey Road, integrated within the soundscape of that island, I think that there's a lot there. I will say, when it's on streaming on Netflix, it only sounds okay. I am looking forward to the 4K disc. I'm hoping Criterion releases it so we can get the proper high bitrate Atmos, and that's where we'll really actually see that soundscape play out.
So back to the original question, I want to get your take. You know, I thought you alluded to it nicely by saying, you know, sometimes you can hear the bass better than even the people who are, you know, mastering the movie. But, you know, in a general sense, why are low frequencies important to the movie watching experience?
So I am the person who specifically went to a movie theater to watch Jurassic Park, the first EATS film, and I had that moment. I mean, now it's impossible to go back there, but it is one of the absolute shattering moments when when, you know, everybody, almost every film nerd knows they put guitar strings underneath a Jeep and pluck them, and that's how the water ripples. But by using sound, we believed that there was a T-Rex coming from behind us. And I remember that sensation for the first time, actively remembering it, of that I could feel something before I could hear it. And I lost my mind. It was so extraordinary. And the soundtrack to Jurassic Park, again, extraordinary score, extraordinary sound design, holds up today absolutely with any modern soundtrack because it's done in such an orchestral way. Bass at its best when it's presented in a non-bloated way, so you're not hearing the rattle and you're not hearing the chuffing, you're just feeling it, is the true way of being immersed. And no headphone, no playing on your laptop, nothing can change that experience. I am blessed to have the Cinesphere, which is the first freestanding permanent IMAX screen in the world. It's a geodesic dome on the lake here in Toronto. And at IMAX, they used to have like a pre-show where they had a bunch of lasers and they showed, here's this channel and here's this channel. Those who know that IMAX is essentially a 6.0 soundtrack with LFE sort of split out of it. There's a center channel and a height channel above it. But they would always say, and here's the bass, and show the stacks of concert subwoofers that were behind the perforated screen. And I would get giddy. So when bass is used narratively, when it is used for impact in the narrative sense, not just the physical sense, it can make a film. Quiet Place, another beautiful soundtrack of taking sound away. I think of the so many of the great sound moments are moments where there's silence before the big explosion. Star Wars Episode 2, that Ben Burtt did that. There's an explosion, you see the flash, and then nothing, and then suddenly, boom, and it just resonates all the way. If you can,
you are like a fun to read encyclopedia. I'm serious. This is, if you're like pulling this stuff from all over the place. I just love it, and it's fun though. It's that moment, yeah. And it's not about demo. It's not about taking you out of the movie and thinking, oh man, that bass was great. It's putting you into the film, into the work, and just having that sense of again, impact. Top Gun 4K, you feel the thrust. You're not feeling a bass coming out of a 16-inch speaker. You're feeling the plane coming towards you, and that's where it truly shines for me.
So I'm curious.
Totally. Can I agree with? I'm like catching up here, but I think what you said about A Quiet Place is so true. It's so stark in the way they use the sound. It's a very good movie all around. I mean, good. I don't know if it's thought provoking, but it's a really great ride, that whole movie. But the way they use the sound is so impactful, exactly for the reason you said.
And I had a chance to see Walter Murch present Apocalypse
I think we lost
Now.
Jason.
Oh,
no, he's there.
Am I here?
No, we got him.
You get him? Okay.
I had a chance to speak to Walter Murch when he presented Blade Runner and Apocalypse Now, and speak to him about those mixes. And if you listen to Apocalypse Now and the helicopter at the beginning, which is as definitive as the dissolve in Lawrence of Arabia, it's a sound moment, and literally the audio dissolve between the Moog synthesizer and the helicopter outside the window. These are moments of sound in cinema that are as definitive as any shot, as any composition, as any performance. They are absolutely true. They are as big of a deal in Apocalypse Now as they are when Jolson starts singing in Jazz Singer.
Totally agree.
Those moments don't have to be as showy, but sometimes they truly can be as impactful. And if you don't have the bass, you are getting only literally half the spectrum.
So our community has a lot of gearheads as well. They may not be into the artistic part of movies as well. And I know you have to do critical listening. You have to assess the quality of these. So I am curious what your thought process was in putting your system together at home, because I know you're doing reviews both in mainstream theaters and some of the places like you mentioned, but also at home. So what was sort of your thought process in putting that together?
It's been at least a 30-year process. I started in high school, I built speakers, and I thought that was the only way that I was actually going to get it. I built cabinets. I found a design, and they were fine, and they're big and they're bassy. And actually, my test disc. Speaking of Jeff Beck, my test disc was "Amused to Death," the Roger Waters album that Jeff Beck actually plays on. And there were specific moments there when I had 2-channel, and then I thought, maybe I need a little bit of center channel. So I built up from there. And then I bought my first subwoofer was a Velodyne. I had a friend that worked at Future Shop, which is the equivalent of Best Buy. And I managed to get a discount on a Velodyne, and I had a Velodyne 12-inch forever. And I would quickly, I would over the years build stuff up. My priority always was I have a hybrid between 2-channel and multi-channel. So I wanted to have the best 2 speakers that I could have. And then my second priority, even before a sub, was actually center channel. And I wanted to have a full frequency center channel so that I was still getting bass from the center channel, even if it wasn't mixed to the LFE. And I kept my Velodyne. And I had DefTech center channels and a full DefTech setup for a while, all of which because I knew that mid bass was for me as important, if not more important, than deep LFE, because I wanted the richness of the sound. My setup now, I have Atmos in a preposterously ridiculous room. I have my ceilings are only about 6 feet tall. I guess it's about 16 by 20, and I have B&W 802s in the front. I have their center channel. I have side surrounds. I have 805s in the rear. I have my SVS as my Atmos down, and then I have my 16 sub. And thanks to Ed, I tuned this sub in such a way that it integrates beautifully in this small room. And we went back and forth. Should I go with a 16-inch sub? Should I go with something so big? And he helped convince me that actually, even though it can run a 3,000 square foot room, musically, I was going to get what I want, and impact in terms of the impact, I was going to get what I want. And so that's what I've developed. So when I listen to stuff, when I listen to 2-channel, I actually don't use my subwoofer. My main speakers are certainly low enough for vinyl playback, for example. So when I do critical 2-channel listening, I'm just using my B&W 802s. But when I listen to a film, I have it dialed in as well as I'm going to dial it in. I do not use, I have a Marantz 8802. I do not use Odyssey. I run it sort of as naked as possible, and I've sort of shifted my entire listening so that things sort of work to my taste, which is a very front heavy monitor style sound, but also immersive. And if you can find that sweet spot, that's the sort of way to do it. That's a very long answer to your question, but that's sort of the journey that I've had over the last 30 years, is getting to the position that I have stuff that frankly is my lifetime system.
Can I ask a question? I'd like to understand, Jason, your entry point to your enthusiasm and knowledge about cinema, and what brought it. Was it just these experiences that brought you to understand the emotional impact that sound brings to cinema?
I was born in 1972, so I was 5. I born June 72, so I was my 5th birthday in and around there. Summer of 77 is when I saw Star Wars. And I know that seems like a banal answer now that Star Wars is so much part of the sort of geek and popular culture in that sense. But my memory, my father, we'll get a little bit deep and personal here. My father's an engineer, and I went with my friend's father, who actually worked for the space program. He was on a shortlisted for one of Canada's first astronauts. He actually helped build the arm on the shuttle. And the 2 engineers are in the front. And I remember we just saw the space movie with all these ships and stuff like that. And I remember nudging my father about the nature of the Force. In other words, I wasn't obsessed with the lightsabers, the stormtroopers, Darth Vader. I was obsessed with the general, for lack of a better word, the philosophy, the underlying ideas of it all. Now, my education happened years later. I have 2 philosophy degrees. One of those on film criticism. I deal with analysis all the time. But what my first experience of watching Star Wars wasn't just that it was entertainment, and it wasn't just that it was incredible sound and incredible picture. It was engagement. I was truly engaged. Now, why was I engaged in all that stuff? Because of the craft. And it was years later when I was learning about the guys at ILM, when I was learning about the technicians that did it, when I was learning about Ben Burt sitting and hitting the guy wires and actually making the sounds, when I realized that I understood the magic that the magicians were doing. And I say this all the time. I'm a huge fan of Penn and Teller, and why I am is because they are magicians that show you the trick, and it's no less amazing. It's in fact more amazing. I don't like the idea of not knowing how it's going. I don't get excited by the mystery. I get excited by the skill and the prowess and all of that stuff. So again, back to Knives Out. When I saw Knives Out the second time, I saw what Rian Johnson did. I know how it goes. It's a mystery film. If you watch that film again, you see master storytelling where you know what's going on and you see all the little notions. So with me, with Star Wars, with any of these films, first came the experience and then came the how was this done? And out of that came a deep and abiding love of the soundtrack and how audio truly could be more in many ways than the picture, of actually bringing you into that world that we enter the world. If there's a bad soundtrack, it's a bad movie. You can have the worst video, but if the audio is bad, we are just simply not engaged.
Yeah. See, and I think Jason and I are like that in the sense I always watch the special features. I love watching the magic. And I was a photojournalism major and then realized I probably should have done film, as geeky as I am into it. But so hearing that's awesome. And I think I'm looking at the comments, I see there's a lot of us that are in that same family of loving to see the art behind the movie.
Well,
the
Jason,
the SVS community is definitely vibing with Jason.
Yeah, we generally exit our guests at about quarter of, but I think I'll be slayed by our community if I do that. So I'm going to do a giveaway, which I know everyone's in favor of, and then we're going to come back with a couple more questions. And we may not get to our lightning round this time, but for our next broadcast, we'll make sure we save some of the great questions that you guys are offering. But for now, we have to give away a pair of our SVS Prime Wireless Pro powered bookshelf speakers, CES Innovations award-winning, I might add. And the winner of that is
an ISO award and Sound and Vision top pick.
I didn't want to take too long on that.
And my
favorite. Jason, it's not an SVS infomercial, but I lied a little bit.
We might just spend the rest of the broadcast talking about all the awards if I had to go through that. But again, the winner of this fantastic pair of Prime Wireless Pro speakers is Mr. Neil Thomas. Neil Thomas, congrats.
Yay, yeah. Neil.
So, Jason, I feel like I might know the answer to this question already, just based on your backdrop there. But I'm curious if, what your take is on the difference between physical media when watching movies versus streaming. And do you do your critical assessments only on Blu-ray, or do you factor in the streaming? Just give me your take in general on streaming versus physical media.
I don't mean to be stumped here. Obviously, just on a technical basis, most discs are superior to most streaming, just on a straight up bit rate level. And we're not adjudicating bit rate. We're not I'm not sitting and hitting info on my player and saying, it's just generally, especially for surround mixes, there's a radically improved sound experience from most UHD soundtracks compared to streaming. And it breaks my heart as somebody who's really into surround music that, for example, the last Beatles release didn't have a physical disc with the Giles Martin multi-channel mix, that it's only available on Tidal streaming, and Tidal Atmos is terrible compared to Blu-ray audio. It just truly is. Is it always going to be that way? Does that mean streaming's bad? No. But if we are articulating how it is in 2023, we are getting bit-starved streaming, which physical discs are clearly superior. So often, if it's a streaming-only film like Knives Out, I actually I had a chance to see Knives Out at the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles, and I saw its world premiere here in Toronto at a beautiful laser-projected screen. I have not watched it again at home. When I get the 4K disc that I'm hoping Netflix gets their stuff together and actually releases it on physical media like they have for some of their films, I will enjoy it that way because I know I'm going to get the most of the film that way. So the short answer is absolutely physical media is my preferred. That being said, I am old enough to know having to return discs because Citizen Kane had the wrong disc, wrong pressing, that Hard Day's Night had the wrong cut, that I have laser discs that have rot. I am old enough to know all the craziness and insanity of needing to have something physical when we can just stream from a server and get everything everywhere all at once, as it were. But for me, I'm still old school enough to not only like to have the physical media, but also to appreciate on my setup, 77-inch OLED, my full Atmos setup, there is a significant difference of quality for picture and sound on physical disc compared to any streaming service whatsoever.
Yeah, we have this conversation a lot in in-person events and coming through here. And I tell everybody, you can buy the movie off of Apple TV or Amazon or whatever for like $24, or you could go pick up the disc for $29, and you get the 4K, the Blu-ray, and the digital copy. So you've got everywhere that you're going to possibly watch it covered.
Yeah, but it breaks my heart that nobody... Look, I'm an Oppo guy. I have a 203 that I'm actually not playing stuff on. I believe it or not, I have a bedroom Oppo 203 because I don't want to put mileage on it. So I bought the Panasonic 9000 because I bought the 820 and the mechanism was so crap that I'm like, I can't believe I'm having to spend $1,000 on a bloody Panasonic player just to preserve my Oppo player, because I know I can never replace that. I can't spend the $3,000 to replace it. Mm-hmm. Manufacturers, there's enough people that care about shiny discs that to make one, it doesn't have to be a fortune. But isn't it amazing to actually have a player that does what you want it to do, plugs in your system? But what do we have now? This will almost certainly be the last generation of console games that have an optical disc player. But as let's step back. I have HD DVDs. I have Laserdisc. I bought all of these things knowing eventually they would go away. And every time I buy a title, it's always a victory for me. The fact that I'm just looking over here, I have Blues Brothers in 4K. Never in my lifetime did I think I would get this film in a resolution and a quality and a soundtrack as good as this at home. This is preposterous. So the fact that this exists, you will have to pry this from my cold dead hands, to quote a lunatic, they released this. I win. I have this. And as long as this doesn't go away and my players continue working and I'll have spare players, I will be able to show this. 10 years from now, am I going to be able to do this with a new movie? Probably not. And I'm hoping streaming will include not only prevailing quality as it increases, but also those supplementary materials, Larry, that we were talking about, all those other elements that are absent online. The technology is available and eventually will supplant this. But for right now, and for me, the foreseeable future, we are locked into a system where online, this film can disappear. Netflix, Prime, whomever can get rid of this. But I have this. I can put it into a player and play it anytime I want without restriction. Exactly. I can give it to a friend to play. I have all of that. And for me, that means something.
So
to say, I'll come at it a little bit differently. We were this way about CD and then sort of circled back to vinyl. Who would have thought that now we have streaming services that stream audio that sounds better than, in my opinion, sounds better than any CD. Vinyl, that's a different conversation. The technology could come around to you, Jason, where quality that really you're searching for will now be available via streaming. And the benefit to you as an enthusiast and a knowledgeable person is all kinds of content that wouldn't have been available on a disc may become available via streaming, and exactly the way the director, the producer intended. That's my hope for that.
I'm a huge proponent of digital cinema. There are so many people who do what I do that are obsessed about celluloid. And I'm absolutely a proponent for digital projection when done right. And we are at a position now with IMAX GT Cinema, GT Laser, with some of the high-end Christies, some of the Barcos, like we're talking commercial, full, like Dolby theaters. We have laser projection, which rivals, if not surpasses, the greatest projection possible. We don't have that at home yet, but we're getting there. In other words, there's nothing about the inherent digital versus analog that makes one better than the other. We can get there. On streaming, I will humbly disagree with you. Even Tidal, which purports to be CD quality, even if it is, so often the mastering that they have for specific albums that they have as part of their library are inferior to some of the other releases. I can have 6 versions of a CD because I can buy the Japanese one or whatever mastering. It's a whole kettle of fish that we go down that road. At the moment, streaming for audio purposes is okay, where it's more than MP3, less than CD right now. Vinyl.
I'll just respectfully say I haven't used Tidal in a long time, but I've used Qobuz pretty religiously in the past couple of years, and I sometimes do compare it with CDs that I have, and I'm pretty happy with Qobuz.
Great.
I'll leave it at that.
Let's say it's approaching CD quality. It's certainly not DVD audio or SACD quality, and it's certainly
I would agree with that.
My analog system is now much more, and it could be. There's absolutely no reason you couldn't be streaming an MLP, or you couldn't be streaming somehow something that's 24/192 uncompressed. We could get there at some point in time. We're not there yet. So that's what I'm saying is we are still there. But my concern is this. There's entire generations of people that are used to having now everything all at once. So selecting that, sometimes you need an idiot like me to say, see this, don't see this. They sit there and they sort of doom scroll your Netflix because they don't know what the heck to watch. They go through Spotify and just let random things happen and go through and don't actually sit and experience an album in its entirety. They watch, you talked about watching the 2 minutes of Blow Up. That sort of broke my heart because that scene is so integral to this.
I know, you're so right. I did feel bad about that, actually. I'm going to cop to that. I just wanted people to see it.
Right. 100%. It has never been easier to see that 3-minute clip from Blow Up. It's weirdly harder to see this film unless I buy it on Criterion or subscribe to the Criterion channel, because this is not going to be on Netflix. And it's definitely not going to be on YouTube. So
you're right.
To your point, there's a much larger,
totally agree with you on that
philosophical question. I would love, let's put it this way. I'm thankful I grew up where I had one record and I listened to the hell out of it. And I learned these records, and I absolutely engrossed in that, and I continue to do that. I am old school enough that when I listen to streaming, I listen to them as albums, not as singles. I do. But Spotify has been remarkable for me for discovering new stuff that I then go out and buy.
Exactly.
And that has been Spotify Discovery. Forget all the other streaming services. I'll give a shout out to Spotify. Spotify Discovery is the greatest out of all audio streaming, period, for finding new stuff for me. And that has allowed me to find music and be nourished in a way that is the culmination of decades of me listening to this stuff. So streaming is helping my other life, just like having access on YouTube will let me know about a film that now I got to go seek out, or a television show I got to go seek out. Somebody's talking about it. And now it's never been easier to get everything from all over the world, but it's also never been harder to have it truly at the highest quality, and to make sure that studios and releasing people are there to ensure that it's the highest quality, because the majority of people are okay. They're fine with fine. And it's people like us that have to keep pushing and saying, actually, we have the systems that are revealing enough. Let's aim for us, because they'll be fine. They'll be fine listening on their crappy soundbar. But we're going to want the best sound and the best picture, and we're going to want it. And then everybody else gets the benefit of our neurosis, as it were.
I think that's a phenomenal.
I really think that's great. I want to react a little bit, because I just love what you've said, and there's so many. There's a lot to unpack there. I mean, I think you're also talking about having the content or the movie or the whatever it is in its full form. And you definitely busted me on saying the 3-minute part of Blow Up, which I even when I said it, I winced, because it's a phenomenal movie. I've probably seen it 3 or 4 times. And when I mentioned it on our team call, no one had ever heard of it. And I felt like this is something where you should see the whole movie. And I also agree with you that there's 2 lives. There's the Spotify life where you can really explore and discover, and then there's the life of experiencing the way that the director intended. because we don't want to lose that. And the one thing I would say, a little bit editorial, is there's this 1/5, 1/6 of humanity that calls themselves quote unquote audiophiles, cinephiles, but there's a whole vast number of people that if you just talk to them the right way, they really appreciate immersive, convincing experiences. And that's a lot what we try to do at SVS, is bring new people to that, but not in a way of like forcing them, but more like, you love this in the theater, or you love this concert in this live venue, and you can have this kind of experience, or at least a slice of it, in your own living space.
I don't want to, I know I'm way over my stay, so forgive me, but this is, I think, incredibly important. I was at an audio show, and I'm listening to $40,000 speakers, and I put on Thunder Road by Springsteen. And it's an incredibly challenging album to play because of how he recorded it. Springsteen wanted it to sound like Phil Spector. And I remember playing it off of Tidal, and the guy from the speaker said, "Play Audiophile." He was upset I was playing something that wasn't demo material in the ostensive way. And what breaks my heart in this hobby are people who buy discs for chapter 14.
Yeah, you're right.
So that they can show off people, look, I have quad SVS 16s in my setup, and look at the SPLs. It's the people who have their cars where they're doing subwoofer tests, and they're taping the windows and doing all that. They're not actually listening to a song. They're showing how high they can get their SPL meter to actually peak. Then it becomes sport. And this is art. This is not sport. And so for me, whatever you're doing, all of this is to serve the movie, to serve the music. We are buying this equipment in order to get the most of what we can in the space that we can within the budget that we have to spend. And it is not about the shiny lights on our equipment. And what I love, I got to say, what I love about you guys is your entire philosophy has been, and here's your infomercial as a person who has spent hard money on your stuff, is that your attitude has been, let us make something that you still make a profit on, but you're not doing something so esoteric that it's out of the way, that you communicate with your audience, that you spend time on the forums, that you spend time communicating with individuals. So I know about your company because you went out of your way to engage with people like me and made me feel inclusive of your brand and your manufacturing. So I knew that what you were building was something that took into consideration what I needed. I needed to be impactful and boomy and hit my bass notes, but also be musical and also be there and subtle and integrate with other speakers that I had. And so as a company, you have absolutely, and that's why I'm so pleased to be able to tell you guys this directly, you have helped me build for me my dream home theater. And
thank you, Jason.
Thank you so much for letting me be part of this. It's truly,
I can't think of
you're an awesome guest. You're getting so many props from the comments. You probably aren't seeing them, but I think
they want you to replace me. They want they want you as a mainstay guest here, and I know we're going to have you back again. If you happen to be in Norway in the next couple of weeks, Jason will be there. But you can find him permanently on thatshelf.com. They got a podcast, they get reviews, they got all sorts of awesome content. So if you like the passion, you like the energy he brought here, check out thatshelf.com. Look for his name. Also filmfest_CA on both Instagram and Twitter. You can get his insights there as well. Jason, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jason. That was awesome.
Definitely going to have you back again for sure.
Do we have a giveaway, Nick?
Anytime.
We do. We got one more giveaway. Thanks, Jason.
One more giveaway.
Ed, we need to do an extended lightning round next time. I know a lot of people want your knowledge, and you.
I thought Jason was great.
Somebody
asked if Ed was asleep.
Somebody asked if I was asleep. I was honestly mesmerized by him.
He's great. Yeah.
His passion, his energy, the knowledge drop, his presentation. I thought he was an amazing guest and just brought so many different fresh perspectives.
Totally agree.
Conversation.
So we got one more giveaway. Before we do it, I will say we are coming back January 26th. I believe that's 2 weeks.
2 weeks from today.
And that's a Thursday. And I saw a lot of comments. I will, that episode, we're going to do extended lightning round, Q&A, and I'll also be talking about my theater. I got a few more final touches to make here. So we'll be covering some of that for those people who are asking. Thank you for thinking about that. But our final giveaway of the evening is a SB-2000 Pro Subwoofer with the SoundPath Subwoofer Isolation System. And the winner is Byron Hart. Byron Hart, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you to the community. Awesome comments as always. Thank you to Jason Gorber, an amazing guest. And we will check in with you guys in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Jason.
And talk to you then. Happy listening.
Bye, everybody.
Next time.